In big fleets of modern boats, a slick mark rounding can bring big dividends. A sloppy one can undo a lot of hard meters gained on an upwind or downwind leg. And the best way to approach a mark rounding is not as a full stop at the end of a leg, but as the lead up to the leg ahead. The approach depends on two things: the traffic situation around the mark and the plan for the leg ahead. As you approach a mark, you should already have a plan for the tactics for the early part of the next leg. The Laser SB3 course has a spreader leg between the windward mark and the running leg. Unless someone makes a mistake, the gaps usually stretch out on this leg, so we have to use every opportunity we have to beat another boat around the windward mark. The starboard tack approach is the safe option, but we may need to overstand the mark to find clear wind. If we hit the ley line some distance away, this could be painful. The other option is to leave the final port approach as late as possible. For this, we need good boat handling and rule skills. And if we're back in the pack, we have to look out for the disturbed wind under the reaching boats. But there are often opportunities to pass groups of boats with this late port tack approach. A starboard boat can defend from a port approacher by bearing off below the ley line. The port tack boat will either tack too early or be forced to duck and join the queue further down the line. On the approach, make sure the vang and main sheet are ready to ease. The boat won't bear away without them. Drop the Cunningham just before the mark. Then everyone sits out hard as the sails are eased, minimising the amount of work the rudder has to do. If the leg is broad enough, we can sail a little high early on, then hoist part way down the leg. If this is not possible, we make sure that everything is ready for a slick hoist as we round the mark. First, we have to decide which way we want to go down the first part of the run. If we're planning to jibe early, we ignore any boats behind us that are sailing high and threatening our wind. We just have to make sure that no one behind is able to jibe before we do. If there's a boat overlapped inside, it's better to slow down, take his transom if we want to go left. If we're going right, we just have to protect our windward side. A perfect hoist is irrelevant if we're immediately blanketed by the boat behind. Once the rounding lane has been picked, the most important point is to get the Gennaker up and pulling. It's a big sail, and the sooner you can set it and harness the power, the faster the exit from the rounding. The pole can go out on the previous leg, so long as we're not manoeuvring too closely. The helm takes the Gennaker sheet to prevent a twist on the hoist. Don't be tempted to pull on the tack line too soon. The head must be near the top spreader first, unless you're fond of fishing. Once the halyard is made, the trimmer can start to trim on the sheet. In light winds, the helm may have to heat up momentarily just to get the flow going. Then take care of the other settings. Ease the vang, outer and Cunningham. Set the backstay, and as soon as possible, settle into downwind sailing mode and putting the downwind plan into action. But don't get so excited you forget to coil the halyard in a figure of 8, ready for the next drop. Life at the leeward mark can get exciting in crowded fleets. The temptation is to keep the power of the Gennaker on until the last possible moment, but the exit from the bottom mark is as critical as the entry, particularly in traffic. Coming out of the rounding with speed and height can mean the difference between finding a useful lane to begin the next upwind leg or having to tack and clear air early on. With no other boats around, the racing line involves a wide entry and a constant radius turn. The helm should be able to reach out and tap the buoy on the exit, with the boat going flat out in full upwind mode. In light or medium winds, a little leeward heel will aid the turn, and sails should come in on time with, and not ahead of, the turn, so they're driving all the way. When there are boats around, it's nearly always better to slow down with an early drop. Let an inside boat through to clear ahead, rather than rounding outside him and starting the beat to leeward and behind. We often have two marks to choose from. In theory, the furthest upwind will give an advantage. However, in a crowded fleet, unless you're leading, avoiding the crowds usually pays dividends. Before making the final decision, make sure that the rounding you choose gives you the freedom to execute your upwind plan. The rounding approach will dictate the drop, and here there are two methods: the straight drop and the kiwi. Whatever the drop, the preparation is the same. Make sure the outhaul is on, the Gennaker halyard ready to run, and the jib halyard and tack set up for the beat. Uncleat the pole line. The tack load will keep it out. To drop to windward, the helm bears off to unload the Gennaker as the trimmer heaves on the windward sheet. Once he or she has 2/3 of the foot in their hands, the third crew member can dump the tack line. Then ease the halyard. The trimmer should never feel friction in the halyard, but the Gennaker should never blow out of control. To drop to leeward, the trimmer grabs the lazy sheet to leeward, while the third crew member takes the sheet. The third crew member blows the tack line, then eases the halyard exactly as for the windward drop. The helm should bear off slightly at the beginning of the operation to unload the kite and make everyone's job a little easier. The leeward drop is the slowest of the three. We'd always try and avoid this routine unless approaching the mark on a very hot angle. The jibe drop works in exactly the same way as the windward drop, except there's no need to pull the Gennaker around the forestay. The trimmer trims on the sheet as the helm turns into the jibe, and after the jibe the Gennaker is all there, ready to drop in the new windward bag. To make the most of a congested leeward mark, a clear understanding of the rules is vital.
The best hoist is the fastest possible transition between sailing fast upwind and then sailing fast downwind. Dropping the Gennaker is a tactical game, and good technique can open up the tactical options. Try and remember the following.
At the mark roundings, preparation is always the key. Anything that you can do for the bear away or for the luff around the leeward mark in anticipation of that manoeuvre is going to help you. So letting kite sheets off, pulling travellers up, etc. is always going to help the speed of your exit at the mark.
When we go around the windward mark, don't be too eager to pull the spinnaker up. A good smooth rounding with weight on the side to help the boat bear away will be a lot quicker than trying to pull the kite up with weight off the rail and the boat heeling over as we try to bear away.
In the ideal world, when we come to a mark rounding, we want to exit it tight, especially the leeward mark obviously, so approach it wide, exit the mark tight whenever you've got the room to do so.
When we're approaching the leeward mark to drop the kite, it's a lot better to drop the kite early than it is late. If we drop the kite too late, we'll end up going around the mark without weight on the side of the boat or even the spinnaker still up. If we drop early, we might sail a length, half a length, or even more without the spinnaker. But we'll go around that mark, good, clean, tight rounding with weight on the side of the boat.